always remember the night when I was the most scared. It was one February evening. My little brother had just gone to bed, and I had finished brushing my teeth. I came out into our living room, and I sat down in our armchair. I looked to my parents, and I went, "Mom, Dad, can we talk?" And if you have a high schooler at home, you know that's not something you always want to hear from your high schooler. Of course, they were concerned. They were asking me questions, is everything all right? But it took me a good minute or so to actually come out with what I had to say to them. I was stuck hysterically laughing. I was terrified. I was terrified I would be rejected and I wouldn't have their love anymore, that my worst fears would come true and I'd have to go and spend the night with a friend. Eventually, I came out with it. And I went, "Mom, Dad, I'm non-binary, more specifically agender, which means I don't feel like I have a gender, and I would like to use they, them pronouns." I am one of the few lucky ones that got a loving and accepting family. However, those across the world, adults, kids that I have to see every day, do not. That fear of rejection comes true. However, that fear of rejection is so innately human. We all have felt it at some point in our lives. So, if you don't fully agree with what I'm about to say or may not understand it, let's let that connect us. We are both humans in this space existing at the same time. Another part of the human experience is dealing with our gender identity. But when we talk about our gender identity, there's 3 big misconceptions that come with it, or at least the ones that I have heard in our day-to-day conversations. The first clarification we need to make is about sex. Sex is what we were born with, what the doctors say we are. It's what you see when someone gives a gender reveal, except it's not revealing someone's gender, it's revealing their sex. It's either male or female, but not all the time it is male or female. Sometimes it's even in between, something called intersex. And if you are confused about what I'm saying, I encourage you to go look it up. I am not well educated enough to give a speech about that. There's power in saying I don't know, and there's power in asking questions about your surrounding environment. The next clarification we need to make is about our gender identity. Gender identity is just like that fear I was talking about. It's how we feel on the inside. When I see you, if you come up and talk to me, I would not be able to tell how you were feeling, that if you had that fear. Just like if I saw you, I would not be able to tell about what you'd identify as. Our gender identity is also a wonderful spectrum, just like this color spectrum we have here. That male and female will go up to set up, but instead of male and female, it will be boy and girl. Let's say, for now, identifying as a boy is more towards the blue side, and identifying as a girl is more towards the red. The best way gender identity has been described to me is through the metaphor of clothing. So for identifying as a boy, let's use pants, and identifying as a girl, let's use a dress, just for simplicity's sake. Now let's give another example. Let's say a person was born female. Thus, they go and try on the dress, and it fits perfectly. They feel like Cinderella. They've never felt better. That's what they feel confident in, and that's what they go and wear out. And to those people, I applaud you. That's amazing. What we call that being cisgender. Cisgender is when our gender identity, how we feel on the inside, agrees with the sex that we are given with at birth. However, that's not always the case. Let's go back to that example. Some may be born with female genitalia. However, this time when they go to try on the dress, it doesn't fit. It's too short. They have to keep pulling it down. It's bunching up on all the wrong areas, and it's itchy, so itchy. So they go and try on the pants out of curiosity, and that's what fits them. That's what they feel comfortable in, and so that's what they wear out. And that's also amazing. We call that being transgender. Transgender is when our gender identity, again, how we feel on the inside, does not agree with the sex that we are given with at birth. There's also another part being transgender, and that could be which is not so black and white. It could be identifying as anywhere on this beautiful spectrum. And oftentimes individuals who do identify more kind of in between go by non-binary, or a more specific term. What this may mean is that someone on a given day may feel more comfortable in a dress, and another they may feel more comfortable with the pants. Or maybe they like wearing both at the same time. Or maybe both don't fit them. They don't like how they look. So they go and they try on a skirt and a tank top, for example, and that's what fits them. That's what they feel comfortable in. So they go and they wear that out into the world. And we can say that's more being in the middle. Or if you're like me, and you don't feel like you have a gender, you don't feel like you're anywhere on this beautiful color spectrum. So you go and you make up your own type of clothing. Sure, it may be weird and people won't understand it, but it's okay, because that's what you feel confident in. And by the 21st century, I would hope we have gone over judging people by the clothing they wear. Now, the next part can be a little bit more confusing. It's not something that we were born with. It's our gender expression, and it actually has to do with the clothing we wear. Our clothing and other inanimate objects have no gender. However, they are more commonly associated with either feminine things or masculine things. And often, all of us, will use that in how we show up in our society, whether that be dressing more feminine, like I usually do. I'm not a super good example, but I love wearing dress, and my favorite color is pink. That doesn't take away from my gender identity and how I feel on the inside. Another part of our gender identity is our gender identity and how we express ourselves today is our pronouns. If you're not super familiar with different pronouns, some of these may look weird, but let me direct you to the top of the list here. The ones you'll most commonly recognize will be she, her, hers, or he, him, his. And those are the ones you'll probably most commonly hear. However, non-binary folk, or just anyone, might use a combination of these, and it can differentiate. We have new language coming out. Ones towards the bottoms we call neopronouns, because they are new pronouns. And the ones I choose to use are they, them. Oftentimes, when I tell people this, I get met with some backlash. People tell me it's plural or it's too new and weird. To which I must say, maybe it is plural. Maybe that's how someone feels on the inside. You don't know that for sure. No one does. And it's not anything new. In the English language, they, them, and gender-neutral language has been used constantly, such as this example. Someone dropped their wallet. They must be really worried. I should try to give it back to them. They, them has always been a part of language. Trans identities and non-binary identities have always been here. They're nothing new. However, the language we use, such as those neopronouns, are new. And they can be confusing. The whole topic of gender can be confusing. Trust me, I know. I've been there. It's weird and it's changing. So to people who want to know other pronouns but feel too weird, I encourage you again to ask. Like I said, there is power in asking questions and understanding more about your surrounding environment. If once you ask a person, no matter who they are, their pronouns, all it is saying, how do I respect you? How can I show you this respect in this little conversation we're about to have? And nothing else. And if you get them wrong, that's okay too. You simply apologize, correct your mistake, and move on. For example, let's say I have a friend named Mark, and he is transgender, and I accidentally misgender him. I would go, oh yeah, Mark, she is such a good artist. And then either someone, Mark, or maybe myself would correct me. And I would say, oh, I'm so sorry. I mean Mark. He is an amazing artist. And that's all there is to it. It's just a small little correction. The person doesn't even need to be in the room. It's just a matter of getting in the habit, especially if you've known the person for a while. However, there is a problem when we actively go against someone's pronouns. Like I said, pronouns are a form of how we show respect. And if we don't use someone's pronouns on purpose, that is an active form of disrespect against them. A form of disrespect that can often be deadly. It's not something that should be taken lightly. Our pronouns are important. It's how we show up in our day-to-day. It's how we recognize each other. And no one likes being disrespected. No one likes their identity to be disrespected. Even if you don't fully understand it, that's okay. I probably won't understand you. I won't understand where you've come from, maybe some of your experience, how you're even feeling in this moment right now. However, I don't need to. You don't need to understand me. You don't need to understand how it feels to be agender, how it feels to be misgender, in order to respect me. No one does. Our world is constantly divided. In the year 2020 alone, we're able to see it in itself. This world feels chaotic most times. But just showing a little basic human respect will go a long way. and won't only push ourselves, but also push our society. Asking those questions about how to use correct pronouns, maybe looking into a new term that you haven't heard before, or asking someone, hey, what's your name and pronouns? It's going to reveal so much to you, and you're going to feel so much better. You're going to be able to look in on yourself and figure out new things about you. I know I did once I started questioning my gender. Trust me, it is confusing. It's uncomfortable, but change is uncomfortable. Humans are always changing. Everything on this earth is always changing. We need to get used to that uncomfortability and embrace it, because I assure you, once you do, you'll be able to stand up on a stage, either just like this one or metaphorically, and say, here I am, this is who I am, and this is who I stand for. Thank you.